How do we choose the best selection criteria for a vacancy? And once we have the applicant scores, how should we weigh the outcome? From decades of study, we know that some selection criteria are more valid than others. Of all criteria, general mental ability, otherwise known as GMA or intelligence, is possibly the most well recognized, and it is followed by several dimensions of personality. At the same time, we also know that the validity of selection criteria varies across occupations. The ideal personality for one occupation, for example, might be far from the ideal for a second occupation. And even general mental ability, while relatively stable across occupations, is more effective for some occupations than for others. Since the validity of selection criteria varies, it can be difficult to know which set of selection criteria can best be used for a specific occupation. Even more so, once we have the scores of different applicants, it can be difficult to assign an appropriate weighting to the various different criteria. So, does this mean that for each new occupation, we need to conduct a study to determine how well each potential indicator predicts performance? Not necessarily. We can use synthetic validity. With synthetic validity, occupations are distinguished on the basis of a finite set of job characteristics. For example, let us weigh each occupation by the extent to which workers in that occupation deal with data, with people, and with things. For each of these characteristics, we can determine the validity of different selection criteria. We can establish how the ability of selection criteria, like GMA or personality, to predict performance varies with the extent to which data, people, and things are important for an occupation. Once we have this information, and want to know which indicators to use and how to weigh these indicators for a certain occupation or vacancy, we simply need to determine how that occupation scores on the job characteristics, such as data, people, and things. Next, we look up how these scores affect the validity of various selection criteria, pick the most predictive criteria for that occupation, and plug their scores into a single synthetic formula. This job-specific formula contains the relative weight or importance of each criterion. And when the scores of an applicant are plugged into the formula, it can even be used to predict that applicant's performance.